I know nothing about Homestuck. My only frame of reference is hearing in passing that it was a popular webcomic from over a decade ago with a big fan base on Tumblr. So when I heard it was getting an animated pilot, I was mostly indifferent. Now, indie animation and me go back a few years. I've given a few projects a chance, and for the most part, they've ranged from kind of middling and not really for me to being pleasantly surprised. So I went in with no real expectations for this series. I like to give everything a fair shake, and honestly, I had only heard this in passing, so when my friend yesterday went out of his way to regale me with the tales of his experience trying to watch this, I knew I had to try as well. Or at the very least, see what the hell he was talking about. Here's a rundown of what my second viewing was, just because the first time I was very confused, but we'll get into that. So we start off with some mastermind narrating the main character, John, who is moving around cakes on his birthday. A birthday he seems to hate for some reason. It's here where Dave is introduced. He's pretty annoying, very millennial coded, and swears every other line. And frankly, after watching this, I do not ever want to hear his voice again. Now, it's a minute and 30 in where I knew I was in for something special. So there is this brief introduction to the system in which they store items, because this world seems to be some type of game world where they introduce the Silodex, and they go into like a pretty long tangent about, the Silodex. Now, my issue with this is more or less that why? It never comes up, like, aside from showing people using a Silodex, so I don't know why I explained all the rules. It's like how in Final Fantasy 13, how they just kind of throw a shit ton of proper nouns at you and then expect you to just kind of keep up or really care about what they're talking about. Now, it's not like a horrid idea to, introduce concepts, but my issue is, why introduce it if nothing important is going to come out? I think something along the lines of, oh man, your Silodex, where you keep your items, yours is pretty outdated, isn't it? It's just like, yeah. And I think I could have gotten enough out of that. I don't know why they needed to waste time to do that, because there really isn't a lot of time. It's only a minute 30 in, and there's only like 10 minutes left of the pilot. So the main conceit of this plot is that there is this game that John is wanting to get, and I guess the Dave character is too cool to actually play it, and the entirety of the pilot will center on this, or at least that's what I think would happen. Just that they just kind of ignore it for the most part, or at the very least they're very roundabout at getting to getting the game, so it feels kind of disconnected. So it's 4 minutes in, and there is another character introduced, Rose, who just kind of talks about what just happened and say, oh yeah, you need the game or whatever. And there's not a lot really to talk about with her, mostly because I have no fucking idea what her character is about. She just kind of teases John and not much else. Also, there's a meteor shower outside, which why? And then her mom is very briefly revealed, like ominously, and so but we're just gonna skip past that because it really doesn't matter. So halfway through the show, they seem to acknowledge that the narrator is actually like part of the universe, which I thought was implied by the intro, but I guess we get more of it. And it's there where at the same time they're acknowledging that, there is a phone call with a new character within 6 minutes, Jade, who's just kind of friendly and chummy with John, and is implied later to know the future. And I'm still confused about a shit ton of stuff that's going on, having not read Homestuck. Oh yeah, I forgot to add in that explanation that also there's a meteor falling down, but much like the award-winning classic Megaopolis, they will not acknowledge that. Now the ending is where you can really fear the show kind of clusterfucks. So he goes in because his game's actually been taken inside by his dad, who is baking a cake, and his dad is a Slender Man creature, and there is a minute-long fight scene with like Dragon Ball Z animation, and the whole time I'm confused on why I should care. He's like 13, so I don't have any reason to believe he's actually fighting him, but it's like his imagination. Also, what did his dad do? My only real interpretation is that he just has an overactive imagination. But even then, I don't know why I should care. Like, I barely know about either of these characters, so it doesn't give me any impact. So the last 30 seconds after John finally gets his game and everybody's going online is just this cut of various things that I presume are later happening in the story, but just are still even more confusing given all the questions that are just unanswered by the end of this, and I have no idea where any of this is going. And there's not really much else to say, because what the fuck is this? Yeah, if you can't tell, it's pretty bad. Now, after watching this, I came to a few conclusions. Number one, this pilot feels extremely rushed. It keeps introducing characters and questions that it has no intention of explaining anytime soon. Now, these could be deep, compelling, interesting, and amazing characters, but it fails to introduce them well enough, and I'm not particularly interested in anything that they're going to do going forward. Oh, once again, iterate, I have not read Homestuck. Maybe this is a one-for-one accurate recreation of the story. But when adapting to another medium, I think an effort should be made to utilize its strengths to do so. The only time I saw this was a brief moment where an urn is knocked over and John looks up to a portrait, so I assumed his mom died, but almost everything else will be told to you whether you like it or not. From Dave's kind of snarky attitude, to John and Rose's bad relationship with their parents, to even some of the smaller things about like being a nerd or whatever. These things are all told to you multiple times, even when you can pretty clearly pick that up just by watching. I'm going to now list off things I'm wondering after this pilot that the pilot itself introduced. The narrator is affecting the world. How much control does he have? Why was the Silodex introduced and its rules didn't come up? Why does the dad bake an absurd amount of cake and gift clowns? Why was there a meteor shower? Why was there a meteor? Is Rose's mom evil? Why was the title drop important? Why does the meteor not come down? Why is John fighting his dad? Am I supposed to care John is fighting his dad? Is this fight just his imagination? Who are all these people? Why should I care? The structure of trying to introduce everybody really does probably hamper this a lot more than it could have been, and it's because of that that it feels very rushed, and even like the humor is more or less just in-your-face things happening or someone saying the fuck word. Wait, who made this? Now, I don't want this to be a ramble about how this web pilot wasn't perfect, because there's plenty of indie web cartoons that don't get off on the right foot, and plenty of web cartoons that, you know what, I've enjoyed to an extent. And so, I do think if this is going to get a further series, that a lot of these kinks need to be worked out. I did like the actual animation. I think it's expressive, and I guess as somebody who hasn't read Homestuck, I'm not sure how accurate it is to the comics, but I liked it well enough for its moments of animation. The voice acting is serviceable, and like as for the actual technical quality of things, I don't think it was actually particularly bad. So I thought it was alright in those aspects. I think it's really just the story that's hankering it. I probably won't watch much more of this if anything more comes out or catches my eye, but I do actually hope that whatever issues I had while watching are fixed up in whatever the main series ends up being. And until next time, thanks for watching the video. This has been Joca-Cola. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time.